Have you ever noticed that some of the hardest seasons of your life didn't look like growth while you were living through them? Maybe it was a breakup. Maybe it was a job change. Maybe it was a detour you never asked for. Or maybe you walked into a room and completely forgot why you were there. Different kind of season, but still frustrating. Sometimes life feels like one giant game of, what fresh nonsense is this? And yet, years later, you look back and realize that season wasn't there to break you. It was building something. Today, we're talking about seasons, the survival tools nobody teaches us, the lessons life keeps putting back, and why the chapter you're in right now is definitely not the end of the story. So grab a glass of wine, your sweet tea, protein shake, or whatever's getting you through the day, and let's talk about it.
Hey, Stephie Kay got something to say. Talk that listens, clears the way. Truth on the mic, grounded in change. You sticking with that? Oh yeah, we sticking with that. Laugh it out, talk it through, we ain't looking back.
Some chats ain't easy, but we take it slow. Tough stuff tackle now, watch us glow.
You sticking with it? Yeah, we sticking with that.
Before we jump into today's topic, I want to circle back to something from last week's episode. I challenged you to make a list of 5 things you stand for, and I hope some of you actually did it, because here's what I've learned. It's a lot easier to get through difficult seasons when you know who you are. When life gets uncomfortable, values become anchors. When life gets noisy, values help us separate what's important from what isn't. And maybe that's one reason some seasons feel so hard. Sometimes life isn't just testing our patience. Sometimes it's revealing what we're standing on. Because when everything is going well, almost everything feels solid. But when the storms show up, that's when we find out what's actually holding us together. Which brings us to today's question. What season are you in? Because just like nature has seasons, life does too. And every season has something to teach us. Traditional seasons happen on the calendar. Life seasons happen on the inside. And what's funny is everybody around you can look like they're having a completely different experience. Your friend gets engaged, someone gets promoted, your neighbor buys a boat. Meanwhile, you're trying to figure out why your car is making a noise that's definitely not supposed to be there. Life doesn't always move at the same pace for everyone. And maybe that's why comparing ourselves to other people never works. You're comparing your winter to somebody else's summer, or your planting season to somebody else's harvest. Here's how I tend to think about it. Winter is both rest, healing, reflection, but it's also a season when the curveballs come in, the things that don't go right. Spring is for new opportunity. Summer, growth, and fall, more for letting go. None of those seasons are bad. They're all necessary in their own way. They're just different. One thing I've noticed is that life seasons don't always end when circumstances change. Sometimes they end when we change. Sometimes the relationship is over, but we're still carrying the hurt. Sometimes the job is gone, but we're still carrying the bitterness. Sometimes the mistake is years behind us, but we're still carrying the shame. The calendar has changed. The season didn't. And maybe that's why life keeps teaching us the same lesson until we finally learn it. Have you ever noticed that? You have a different job, but kind of the same frustration, or new relationship, same argument, different friend, same disappointment. After a while, you start wondering if life has a subscription and forgot to cancel your shipment. But maybe the lesson keeps showing up because the lesson isn't the other person. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's our self-worth, our communication. Maybe it's learning to stop saying yes when every cell in your body is screaming no. Life has a funny way of circling back around and asking, okay, are we ready for this one now? Most lessons don't leave when we're tired of them. They leave when we've learned what they came to teach us. There's a speaker and author named Jim Rohn. One of his most famous ideas was that we can't always control what season we're in, but we can control who we become while we're in it. I've been listening to some of his old speeches lately, and one of them had 4 major lessons in life to learn by Jim Rohn. Number 1, learn how to handle the winters. They come right after falls. Some are long, some are short, some are hard, some are easy, but they keep coming. Winter is when it won't work, you run out of money, and you've got a broken heart. The nights are long. How do you handle it? You get stronger, you get wiser, you get better. The winters won't change, but you can. Number 2, take advantage of the spring. Days follow nights. Opportunity follows difficulty. Take advantage. Do something with it. If you will change, everything around you will change. Plant in the spring, or you'll be begging in the fall. Number 3, learn how to protect your crops all summer. Bugs and weeds will come. Good things will be attacked. All values must be defended. Your garden must be tended to all summer long. Number 4, take full responsibility for what happens to you. Reap in the fall without complaint if you don't do well, or without apology if you do well. Accept full responsibility either way. I was talking to a friend yesterday about life events, and sometimes if we think of different life events, we think of pivotal things like becoming a parent, or walking your daughter down the aisle, or buying a house, starting a business. And sometimes, many times, things don't go as we thought they should, right? And especially if it's something we thought of for decades, and sometimes things are ripped from our plan, and it's hard for us to get out of that space. We want to just sit there, and for a time we want to wallow, I think, because we don't know what to do with the pain of the fact that it's not going how it was supposed to go. And I've really had to work hard at changing my perspective and changing my mindset. So you've got 2 choices, basically. You can sit and wallow in that space for years if you want, or I lost that job. I shouldn't have lost that job. I was in the right or whatever. And so now I'm going to talk about it for 20 years, and that's not doing anybody any good. At some point, you've got to let it go, and we've got to accept responsibility for, yes, some things are out of our control, but we owe it to ourselves to change the story. The Rolling Stones have a song, and there's a famous line in it that goes like this: you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And I've got to be honest, I've always had a little issue with that, because why can't I have both? Why can't what I want and what I need be the same thing? Does anybody else think that? Most of us don't wake up in the morning hoping for a character-building experience. We want the relationship. We want the promotion. We want the breakthrough. We want the answer. But life has a funny way of giving us what we need first. Sometimes what we need is patience. Sometimes what we need is confidence. Sometimes what we need is healing. And none of those things are nearly as exciting as getting exactly what we asked for. And maybe that's where seasons come in. We usually don't know which season we're in until we're looking back on it. Hindsight's 20/20, right? The season we called a setback might have actually been preparation. The season we called waiting might have actually been growth. The season we wanted to escape might have been giving us exactly what we needed. And I've noticed something over the years. A difficult season doesn't always get easier because the circumstances change. Sometimes it gets easier because you finally stop carrying it alone. A phone call, a friend, a family member, a mentor. Somebody who reminds you that you're not crazy, you're not broken, and you're going to get through this. And maybe that's why some people make it through winter better than others. It isn't because they're stronger. It isn't because they have fewer problems. Sometimes it's because they have somebody in their corner. Somebody cheering for them. Somebody praying for them. Somebody checking in when life gets heavy. And if you're lucky enough to have that person, don't take them for granted. And if you don't have that person right now, keep looking, because none of us were designed to do every season of life alone. And I was thinking, even professional boxers have a corner. Imagine getting punched in the face for 12 rounds and nobody handing you a water. That's not a strategy. That's a terrible plan. I think it starts with finding that support team, finding your sidekick, finding the goose to your maverick, And something I've been thinking a lot about lately is somehow over time we wanted to not become a burden, right? Like here's where I'm going with this. Let's say you're traveling and you're going to stay in a town and you've got a cousin there, for example. And maybe you know the cousin, maybe you don't very well. But back in the day, you would always stay with the cousin. You call them up. Okay, yep, absolutely. Stay as long as you need. And somehow over time, it seems like even for me, I would get a hotel instead. We don't want to disrupt their life. But isn't that the whole point? Building those relationships and staying connected. One thing with me, when I was a couple years back when I was traveling so much, I got reacquainted with many of my cousins, especially the ones in Georgia. I was driving through there a lot, visiting friends in Florida. And now, of course, I live here. But even if we just got together, for an hour, it was priceless. And looking back, I needed that grounding and that stability in ways that I didn't even know at the time. So that's one thing I think we could bring back. About 32 years ago, we lost my cousin Diane in a car accident. And she was 27 years old, and she'd fallen asleep while driving and hit a tree. That was devastating. I remember thinking, I'm going to live for her in some way. Not because she would want me to stop living my own life. It's not like that. But because she was so full of life. She laughed hard. She loved people. She showed up. And when she was gone, I realized the best way to honor her wasn't to spend the rest of my life being sad that she left. It was to make sure some of that joy she brought into the world didn't leave with her. I'm always looking for different tools or things that will help us when life gets hard. And here's a few that we may not have thought of. Tool number 1, borrowed perspective. Ask, will this matter in 5 years? Many things instantly shrink. Tool number 2, the future you. Ask, what would the healed version of me do? Not the hurt version, not the angry version, the healed version. Number 3, the pause. We've talked about this one before. Not every text deserves a response. Not every emotion deserves action. Sometimes taking the pause changes the situation. I think anytime we've gone through a big life change, like a divorce, things are said and things happen, right? And sometimes we want to lash out. Don't do it. Don't do it. Taking that pause many times stops it in its tracks and will stop you from making the situation possibly worse. Sometimes we got to do what we can to protect ourselves first, right? Tool number 4, the evidence list. When life says, I'll never get through this, write down every hard thing you've already survived. Evidence beats emotion. And I would one-up this by also saying, what am I supposed to learn in this situation? And write those things down. What good can I find? Even if you got to dig so deep, you can hardly see it. It's there somewhere. Number 5, stand on something. This is a tie back to last week's episode 27. When life gets uncomfortable, what do you stand on? Values become anchors. Tool number 6, release what you're dragging. Picture yourself climbing a mountain carrying a backpack full of bricks. Every resentment, every grudge, every regret, every I should have. Eventually, the question isn't whether you can carry it. The question is why you still are. Forgiveness doesn't excuse what happened. It simply refuses to let the hurt become your permanent address. Once we realize not every person is meant to stay forever, some people arrive to teach us something. Some arrive to heal us. Some arrive to reveal something in us we didn't know was there. And if we're honest, some seasons don't end because we keep replaying what someone did instead of learning what it taught. But think about a baby bird. There comes a moment when the mother bird has to stop protecting it and start preparing it. She nudges it out of the nest. The bird flaps, panics, flaps some more, probably has a few thoughts about its mother's parenting decisions, but eventually something amazing happens. It discovers it can fly. And the truth is, that bird may never discover what it was capable of if it never leaves the nest. The push isn't punishment. The push is preparation. And the thing we thought was happening to us was actually happening for us. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because growth rarely happens when everything stays the same. And if we're keeping it real, most of us prefer the nest. It's familiar. It's comfortable. There's snacks there. But nothing ever learned to fly by staying where it started. And maybe that's what some seasons are. A gentle nudge, or sometimes a not so gentle shove out of what's comfortable and into what we're capable of. It seems like I've been gut punched over and over and over, kind of like the boxer. I am certainly able to see many amazing gifts that have been given to me in between. I look at the life I'm building and I'm so proud of it. Grateful for this podcast and the things that are coming with it. I'm so grateful for where I live and the friends that I have. The list is endless. And I think part of the setback period has been stuff I've brought on myself. Things I couldn't let go of, people I couldn't let go of, people I'm still struggling to let go of. I'm choosing to live in that space. But day by day, it's getting easier. One thing I've learned is that life seasons don't always follow a calendar. Winter starts on a certain date. Spring starts on a certain date. Summer starts on a certain date. Life doesn't work that way. A season of life can last 6 months or 6 years. It doesn't end because the calendar page changes. It ends when something in us changes. And maybe that's why two people can be standing in the same place and be in completely different seasons. One person is starting over. Another is finally seeing the results of years of work. One is healing. One is building. One is letting go. One is moving forward. Sometimes all at the same time. And here's the part that really got me thinking. I spent a lot of time wondering what came next for me. And then I started the podcast. And at some point I realized the podcast wasn't what comes next. The podcast is the action. I'm already doing the thing. I'm already stepping out. I'm already showing up every Wednesday. Now, the season isn't about launching. It's about staying faithful and consistent and showing up even when I don't know who's listening. It's about getting a little better every week, because sometimes after the big step comes the harder step, staying, not rushing ahead, not forcing the next chapter, not trying to figure out the ending before you've finished the page you're on. Sometimes the season isn't asking us to move, it's asking us to stand. And trust that if another season is coming, we'll know when it's time. Until then, maybe our job is to simply show up. And maybe that's why forgiveness matters so much, because sometimes forgiveness is the doorway out of a season. Now let's clear something up. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean there weren't consequences. It doesn't mean you trust somebody who hasn't earned your trust. And it certainly doesn't mean you invite unhealthy people back into your life. Forgiveness is different. Forgiveness is deciding you're no longer going to let what happened rent space in your head for free. It's releasing your grip on the hurt, not because they deserve it, because you deserve peace. And here's the interesting thing. The person who hurt you may have moved on years ago. Meanwhile, you're still dragging the backpack. You're still carrying the weight, still living in that season. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it can change what the past is allowed to do to your future. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can say is, I won't let this define the rest of my story. Because life is too short to spend every new season carrying last season's luggage. My Stephie Kay thought of the day is this. Just because you're in winter doesn't mean spring isn't coming. Some of the most important growth happens where nobody can see it. Roots grow before fruit. Whatever season you're in right now, don't assume it's permanent. It isn't. The hard season, the lonely season, the rebuilding season, the waiting season, seasons change. And sometimes the very thing you're trying to get through is preparing you for something you can't see yet. Thank you for spending a little time with us today. If this episode made you think, made you smile, or reminded you of someone who could use a little encouragement, please share it with a friend. New episodes of You Stickin With That drop every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm Stephie Kay, and the question is, what season are you in? Because if life is a book, winter is just a chapter, not the ending. Keep turning the pages. Your story isn't finished yet. Have a great week, everybody. I love you guys.